Jeremy Hunt is modelling himself, I think, on Geoffrey Howe, Mrs. Thatcher's Chancellor. And Geoffrey Howe raised taxes in most of his budgets in the early 1980s. And then in 1983, he cut tax in a most extraordinary way for both businesses and individuals. And that's often seen by historians and analysts as being a reason why the Conservatives, why Mrs. Thatcher won that election. I would say it's wrong. I would say Mrs. Thatcher won that election because of the Falklands impact and possibly because Mr. Kinnock fell into the sea at Brighton. I don't think it has so much to do, although I know there's a great swathe of economists who will contradict me. I don't think it has so much to do with Geoffrey Howe's giveaway. And the proposed giveaway in 2023 is predicated on, according to Jeremy Hunt, in just before the Manchester conference, he said that he wasn't in a position to decrease tax immediately without ensuring that people moving off work into benefits without obligation to look for work could be questioned. So he's effectively signalled, or he signalled then, that tax cuts now would be paid for by squeezing the welfare budget, whether he turns out a mix of carrot and stick. It is effectively how do you get the money to pay for the tax cuts? You get it out of welfare, and that I think is disturbing. Hunter said we're serious about growing our economy, and that means we must address the rise in people who aren't looking for work, especially because we know so many of them want to, and with almost 1 million vacancies in the jobs market, the opportunities are there. But many of the people who want to work are not in a position to work, or are not accepted in the sort of jobs that they can best do, and that would give them a benefit. So simply removing welfare, removing benefits from people, and forcing them into jobs for which they're not tailored is, I think, not a way forward. That's a way to breed discontent. So from the very beginning, I mean, it's not simply that the work and pensions people have got one idea and Hunt's got another. Hunt is entirely focused on this idea that these two things go together: tax cuts for the rich, oppression for the poor. And this is a government that promised to transform the lives of disabled people in Britain. Instead, they will be facing sanctions, they will be penalised, they will be forced to fill out more of these ridiculous forms. Only, I think, 2 years ago, there was a swathe of forms, and I think 3 or 4 people, maybe five people came to me to help them fill out these forms, and these forms were enormous and repetitive and exhausting, and I know people who went to bed simply because they received these forms. This form filling is not the way forward. What we need is targeted support for people, and I'm afraid that costs money. Form filling, box ticking is an easy solution that simply gratifies the civil servants and makes people like Hunt satisfied that he's done something. Actually, all he's done is produced a document that is very difficult to answer, with questions which are aimed at a particular response. And a lot of people faced with these questions don't know what the response is, because it's not straightforward. And you only have to look at a tax form. Unless you are professional, it is almost impossible to fill it out on your own. And it's not about answering truthfully. It's about answering the question which is hidden in the question which is on the paper. And getting that right requires experience and expertise, and it is unfair and unreasonable to impose that on people who are sick, who are depressed, who are vulnerable. And many of the people who are collecting welfare, who are on universal credit, are exactly in that position. What Jeremy Hunt is trying to do is still to patch up the mess of Kwasi Kwarteng's experiment and Liz Truss's veneration of his prodigious package. There's nothing prodigious or impressive about what Kwasi Kwarteng revealed when he became Chancellor. He revealed an inadequacy and a level of idiocy which I am deeply surprised at because I've read at least one of his books, and I was incredibly impressed. And and like Rishi Sunak, Kwasi Kwarteng is one of the bright boys of the current Conservative Party. But just like Kwasi Kwarteng, Rishi Sunak also can be a twit. He revealed that earlier this week. Jeremy Hunt, I think, is not in that group. But Jeremy Hunt, Jeremy Hunt is Jeremy Hunt, isn't he, really? And he asked a very interesting question about 6 months ago. He said, we're not in a position to talk about tax cuts. The question we have to answer for the British people is, what are you doing to get yourself in a position where you can credibly lower taxes? Well, actually, that's not the question that we have to answer. The question we have to answer is two-part. Number one, what are you doing to repair the damage that Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss inflicted on our country? And number two, what are you doing to help people? Maybe if you want a number three, if you want to consider the future of Parliament and the future of the Conservative Party, what are you doing to ensure survival after the next general election? That's another one for you. But for the most part, this isn't about what we are doing or what we have done. It's about what the government is doing. And the government is doing precious little to help.